Spring is in the air at Global Voice Broadcasting. Fresh new shows are hitting the airwaves every day. Shows about all the things that matter to you in your life. Music, fashion, celebs, and more. It's all here, and it's getting better every day. Only at Global Voice Broadcasting. Welcome to the world of Cabarabia, the world where Broadway, jazz, comedy, and pop share the spotlight, and a 2-drink minimum. With your host, producer, director Clifford Bell, keeping the world safe for live performances in intimate settings on Global Voice Broadcasting.
And welcome back. Welcome back to Cabarabia here on Global Voice Broadcasting. My little podcast that could, my weekly rumination on all things relevant to live entertainment in intimate settings. And I'm very excited today because we have an extremely interesting guest for you today. Please help me welcome into my in-studio guest today, Ms. Ivy Jones.
How do you do? Hello, honey. Hello, everybody.
I have known Ivy for, we were just trying to figure it all out. I think it's been about 20 years now.
I think it's about 20 years.
And Ivy is a fascinating woman that is a very, very accomplished actress with a long resume of TV and film and stage credits. That I have occasionally dabbled into the world of cabaret with, and am currently doing that. So when it dawned on me that you ought to come be here, it's actually turned into a little bit of a different experience than a lot of these conversations, because a lot of the times when I invite people to come be on the show, it's specifically their cabaret stuff, their concert stuff, blah-de-de-blah. But you have such a wide-ranging story and such an interesting background.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi, darling.
For being here.
I'm thrilled to be here.
I'm excited to just talk and to try to get onto the program here. Some of the conversations that we've just had in your living room over
Absolutely.
the years. Going as far back as Professional Children's School.
Professional Children's School.
In New York.
In New York City, with all of the models that were on the cover of 17 magazine and all of the very serious violinists that all became superstars, and the American Ballet Theater kids, and all the Broadway kids.
Right, and the Oliver
and whatever
How
shows
to
up.
Succeed.
Peter Pan and Oliver and How to Succeed, and we ran in very fun electric circles. We were very wild for 16 years, being 16 years old and let loose on Manhattan. So, and everyone had money because they were all working, in TV, and all the kids were working until they would maybe get a little bit older, and then they'd get scared because they would be fired from the show because they grew an inch or two. And they would, many stories of the kids. Oh God, how do I tell my mom?
How do I tell my mom I grew? In many ways, Ivy is the quintessential story of an actress's story, both in the New York environment and the LA environment. So I'll just catch up with kind of relatively current things, and then we'll talk backwards.
Right.
I met Ivy doing a production of Piaf.
Piaf.
So, Gabe, will you hit us with a picture of that? Yes, and she was actually a fabulous Piaf. That was started at the American
Renegade Theater, and we did so well there that we moved it to the Zephyr on Melrose. And then we ran there with a change of casts, and that's how the Angels came back into it, the Company of Angels, because we cast a lot of people out of the Angels, because I was a member of the Angels from 1971.
Right.
And the original Piaf show was directed by Paul Brennan, who was the president of the company for a million years. And then we spoke about doing Piaf. Piaf was with a cast of 12.
Right.
But we spoke about it was a play. It was a play commissioned by the Royal Shakespeare Company and written by Pam Gems, and it ran Piaf's entire life from like 16 to 48, her death, which is like the same age as Judy Garland, and similar circumstances for sure, similar story. And I just fell so in love with it. I have to do this. I have to do this show. And I was very, I zeroed in on Piaf a lot because as a singer from the time I was a little baby, my mother used to always say, "Stop singing while you're eating. The Jewish custom was, you'll get a crazy husband. You'll get a crazy husband." I want to sing. I don't want eating's getting in my way of singing. So, but the thing with my singing was, whenever I would study, people would try to get rid of my vibrato. And with Piaf, I found, I don't have to lose my vibrato. How really? Fabulous. I can just let it go, And I had studied for a while with Seth Riggs and became very close with his wife, Florence. And she, at a certain point, said, I'm going to leave it alone. It's you. It's just a part of the way you beat,
It did definitely work for Piaf.
And it definitely works for Piaf.
So, and now Ivy is part of a small community. You can go to the next picture, Gabe. A small community of people who actually have a very vibrant life in the theater. You've done a lot of great work in the landscape of the theater.
Yes.
What is this here?
This is a play called Askance, which was an original play written by the president now of the Eclectic Company Theater, in which I played a woman who spoke mainly in monologues and was dealing with dementia. It was just wonderful to work on an original play because it was, such a creative endeavor. It's a company I belong to. It's a company that mainly does original works.
Right.
And it's the company where I was able to bring Annulah to life, which was a play that my friend John Spencer suggested I do because he was friendly with the writer Emily Mann. So I did.
And John Spencer was a series regular on the show.
Series regular on West Wing,
so
chief of
you would
staff.
Definitely know.
Absolutely, he was also a regular on L.A. Law, and he had a big New York life on Broadway, and.
But he was another one of those professional
and
children.
he was part of PCS, Professional Children's School, and so he suggested one day poolside, Annulah, that's the play for you to do, because I was getting to that age in my life, and it was a rich, wonderful character part, and I did it as a reading at the Eclectic, because they give you great freedom there, and that's what I like about it. And then we did like a backers audition there, and brought it to life at the Eclectic, and then we're able to bring it off Broadway to New York.
Right.
So we did that, and that was fantastic.
And it was a Holocaust survivor.
It's a Holocaust survivor. She actually was not in the camps, but her husband was. But she was able to pass for Aryan and did so that she could save her husband and her sister. And it's a wonderful piece because I don't know that the writer said that I made it more comedic and made her more charming than she was really written. She was more of she's a writer in the piece, and she's got this 6-hour play that she's working on. But I saw her great joy of life and living, and a lot of the legacy of.
Well, that's a compliment, right?
Yes.
I mean, that is a compliment.
Yeah. And she told me, you can do this play whenever and wherever you want.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, weren't there 2 versions of it where one was a complete one-person show and one was a...
Yes, absolutely.
You did it with Amy Benedict.
Yes, I did it with Amy Benedict. When we
did it,
wonderful. Yes, when we did it she was wonderful and such a joy. I mean, we did so much research. That's the other thing in my life which has been such a joy for me is as an actor is the research. I love becoming other people, and I rented a wheelchair from my father's Audrey Rose, lived in a wheelchair for like 6 months before doing that. I mean, I really go into it. But we did it at the Eclectic originally, and Judy Weldon, who directed it, said, why do it as a voiceover? Let's try bringing in the the voiceover and have her walk around the house as she's remembering.
Right, because the play is
Interviewing this woman.
With a young person
Yes,
interviewing.
it's
this
a young
woman.
person
Yeah.
interviewing. So she had Amy come on stage and sit back while Annulah, we cooked chicken soup on stage, and we had a real stove,
A
and
fully
I
functioning
really
kitchen.
chopped the
I remember
vegetables.
that.
Fully functioning kitchen. I then took it to Palm Desert, and they made another gorgeous kitchen.
Right.
Ron Salona, who has a theater now.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Is that
The
I don't wanna say
Coachella
it
Valley,
right.
I think it's the Coachella Valley Repertory Theater Company.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I did Zorba there for him, and he brought Annulah in after we did it in New York. But when we did it in New York, Emily Mann was there. She is
The
the
author.
artistic director of the McCarter Theater in Jersey, a very, very prominent regional theater. So the author was there, and she was very strict about how we keep it exactly as written, which was fine. So so then we did it with the voiceovers, and it worked great. I loved what Judy had Amy do. It was wonderful to have a partner on stage. That's the difficulty of doing one-person shows. Part of the love of theater is that it's a communal art form, and you're working with other people.
So,
Yes.
so that brings us. So we met when you were doing Piaf,
Yes.
which I think it was my idea, probably
was.
wasn't it, to
Yes.
do the Piaf, Patsy, and Peggy Lee?
Yes,
thing?
it was your idea. You
So
said,
my vision is to turn everything in the world into a nightclub act.
Yes,
So,
yes, and my
so I took this very intelligent play and turned it into a cheesy nightclub act, as is my way.
As is your way, and as is my joy.
But Ivy wanted, in addition to doing Piaf, I wanted to stretch her wings,
Yes.
and so we actually turned it into a three-segment nightclub act.
Yep.
Where she
Fabulous.
played Piaf, Patsy Cline, and Peggy Lee. And it actually had a wonderful chemistry about it. I mean,
it really
there
did.
was a similarity between those three women and the musical interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was our first
Yes.
musical adventure. I have
Yeah.
one more picture here I just pulled
Yeah?
from like your website stuff, just
Really?
because it's I just one of the things you could probably take that off.
You can
Kate.
take that one off, right? Thank you.
One of the things that marks your career as an actress is that you are extreme. I always compliment you on your eccentricity and your sense of abandonment. I really don't think I've ever worked with anybody that has quite as much freedom to just like go there. You can't a director or writer can't think of anything odd enough to ask you to do, and you're just like, oh, okay, that sounds fun, I'll do that.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the endlessly interesting things about you, and certainly something that we're employing in this new stuff we're working on. So we started up maybe about 6 or 7 months ago, maybe.
Yes.
And I had Ivy guest spot in a few things that I produce. Let's see, I think I have Beverly Mitkin's Party Pack. Yeah.
Right.
She was a guest in one of the Beverly Mitkin's
That was
evenings.
fabulous. That's a great evening.
Previewing some of the things we've been working on. And then next, I think we had her in my Here and Now series.
There we are in the Here and Now.
There you are in my Here and Now series.
Yep.
And that has all led up to it came to be Christmas time, and Ivy came to me and said, I'd like to do a little show at my theater company. It's called Merry Fucking Christmas. A sweet holiday tale. Y'all. Merry Fucking Christmas.
Christmas, y'all.
So, Gabe, can you hit us with that next picture? So in this, Ivy plays
a rodeo queen,
ex-rodeo queen, former beauty queen,
former beauty queen,
and her,
my 30-year-old husband,
white trash 30-year-old husband, who had this intensely passionate making out behavior through the entire show.
Yes.
That was so hilarious and so over the top.
Yes, absolutely.
That was a crazy-ass show you did.
It was crazy and wonderful, and I couldn't resist it because the whole idea of wearing a pageant banner and, making out with this gorgeous 30-year-old.
Right. And then the whole, it's like a family is meeting up for like a family reunion for the holidays in a faraway location, blah, 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 blah. And she's the pageant queen, wife of this,
Yes. And even though she's twice his age, she claims that the only reason she's not giving birth to Grandma's baby is because she had a hysterectomy.
Right.
Otherwise.
And Ivy, probably in clothes from your own closet,
I'm
just
always,
going to say.
Always.
Is, down to here and up to here, and like everything is hilarious. And then, and towards the end of the play, she says very confessionally to somebody, now, I just have to admit, I'm not 35 years old. Or whatever the line was. Yes. It was so funny.
But don't tell anyone else.
But don't tell anybody.
I've got a reputation to protect.
So this is all stuff that you've done on your own. You've had a big career, worked a lot in TV and film. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, since we for the first time with you with microphones, it's interesting. Ivy is the daughter of a gentleman named Frank DeFilitta.
Frank DeFilitta.
Who is a very famous author, screenwriter, director, and most specifically known for like an iconic cult movie book from the past named Audrey Rose.
Yes.
A feature film that you were also in.
Yes.
And I just, I don't know that we've ever had the opportunity to talk about your relationship with Frank, and then subsequently Raymond, who we'll talk about in just a second.
Very, very special. I'm very blessed. Whenever I get upset about anything, I just go right to look at the family that I have. It's extraordinary. They were arty and bright and fascinating in the 50s when it was a big deal to go downtown and shop in the village. And they just were, and the house was just always filled with authors and music people and painters and...
So, Gabe, I think there's an Audrey Rose poster, just for anybody who knows. It was in addition to being a very successful book, it was also a very acclaimed movie with Anthony Hopkins,
and it was
Marsha Mason.
And Marsha Mason, and it was Tony's first major lead role.
Right. And it was directed by Robert Wise. Or as Ivy said earlier today, Bob Wise. Bob Wise directed it.
Wise.
All right.
Yes.
And it's the tale of reincarnation.
It's the tale of reincarnation.
So a lot of Frank's works deal with the supernatural.
Yes, he loves it. A lot of it deals with the supernatural. He also made a iconic film, a documentary film called The Stately Ghosts of England, which he went to England to toured all the stately homes and famous ghosts, and actually got a ghost. So we all think on camera, on film.
Right.
The first couple of days of shooting, every time they sent, you sent film back to a lab in those days, and they would send it to the lab, and nothing. There was no film, nothing showed up.
Right.
And Margaret Rutherford, the actress, was the tour guide in this documentary. And she brought a medium friend with her, and the medium said, and then to Margaret, and Margaret said to Frank, "You have not asked for permission."
Oh.
That's what he said. So that night, he went up the stairs and asked for permission to shoot.
He had the ghost sign the release.
He had to sign the release, right? Yeah. And by God, the next day, they got everything on film.
Wow.
They really did. And it's appeared in magazines a lot. You see this white ghost thing go through the door, past the door.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, Frank is also identified by one of his works, which I knew you for years. I mean, we were well into our friendship when I realized that he had been the author of this story. Every once in a while you have those movies or whatever from your childhood that really just sear into your brain. Yeah. And there was that movie, I know it as The Entity. Starring Barbara Hershey. It was a small cult film at the time. but it was essentially about a ghost presence who stalks and rapes repeatedly a woman. So the movie takes on a sort of like chiller thriller, horror movie kind of thing, but it was actually based on a true story, and it has the vibe of being like a documentary about a horrible incident. And that for whatever reason that caught my imagination when I was a child and scared the death out of me. So I was at your house one day and I saw the book The Entity. And it's her.
How you realized. Oh my God.
And I realized that was your father.
Well, just this weekend, seeing my brother Raymond, we were talking about movie houses dying out, and revival houses don't seem to exist anymore. And evidently, Quentin Tarantino bought some movie theater in Hollywood to keep a revival house going. And Raymond walked into it, and he said, "This is a huge poster of The Entity."
Wow!
And he said, "Why do you have that?" And he's like, "I love that movie. I love that movie." So so there are people that. And his books, Frank's books, are they have a certain bite to them that it's hard for movies to capture, which I think is the reason why he always wanted to direct his own things.
Which he did go on to do quite a lot.
Yes.
And then not only is your father of this particular renown, but also now your brother,
my brother,
his son, is enjoying his own tremendous success as an auteur filmmaker.
Excuse me. Yeah.
And you said, I guess the real breakthrough film was 2 or 3 years ago, City Island. Starring Andy Garcia.
Yes, and Juliana Margulies.
So this is Ivy's brother, Raymond
DeFilitta.
And his first film, his first major release was
Cafe Society,
which starred my friend Peter Gallagher. And Laura Flynn Boyle. And you.
And me.
As Dorothy
Kilgallen, which was fantastic. It was great. I was kind of set up like this.
Right, you were at the mic.
I was at the mic, Yeah.
And then just a couple months ago, he's released a new film.
Yes, a new film.
That's fantastic.
That people love.
Also based on a true story.
Yes, and it's a true story, and it's called Rob the Mob.
Yes.
And it's a true story of this couple.
Of like a kind of like a Sid and Nancy.
Like a Sid and Nancy, like a Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah. Who decided it's a good idea to knock over establishments that are run by the mob because they won't call the police.
They won't call the police.
They didn't realize what they would do in retaliation.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it features it's that guy Michael Pitt.
It's Michael Pitt,
who was so brilliant in that Murder by Numbers. Did you ever see that? Oh my God! He was so good in that.
Yeah.
And then that new young girl who the toast of Broadway in Venus.
Venus and Fur.
Yeah. And what's her name?
And her name is Nina Arianda.
Yes. Well, I'm going to say if anybody's on the ball, she's going to get an Oscar nomination. That girl.
That would be fabulous.
It's an incredible performance.
It certainly is.
It's a star-making role. For a girl who's born to be a star.
Yeah.
And you have a lovely part in it.
I have a nice part in it.
And we happen to know the filmmaker, so we made a little call, and we get to show your moment.
Yay!
So I guess this is from Rob the Mob.
May I help you?
How much is a dozen roses?
12 for 15.
$15 a dozen?
$15 a dozen.
Can I get a dozen for 12?
No, you can have 12 for 15, and I'll put this pretty card in with it.
Yeah, give me a card.
What do I write on the card?
Give me all the cash in the cash register.
Don't move! Don't move! Don't move, please. Don't move.
All right? I don't want to hurt anyone, all right?
Open the cash register.
Oh, shit.
Hurry up. Come on. Is this all you got? Valentine's Day. What kind of fucking business are you running here?
Happy Valentine's Day, you fuck!
fucking drive!
Happy Valentine's
Yes.
Day, you fuck.
Yes, and that line came out over coffee that morning or the night before. I said to Raymond, what if I said, and he said, great, say it.
So you should get screenplay
Yes,
credit.
right. All
My
right.
God.
I love working with my brother. I've also worked with my dad. He's directed some movie of the weeks that
Right.
the one with James Brolin, Trapped.
Yes,
And-
that's another one
yeah,
that I remember
yeah.
like it was
Oh,
yesterday.
yeah, it's
James
really
Brolin
something.
accidentally locked overnight in a department
store.
And the guard dogs are after
Yeah,
him. It's
yeah, and they go
classic.
up and down the escalators, and
Yeah.
yeah. Frank's stuff is always. He started in radio right after World War II, selling a show called Suspense.
Yeah.
And he wrote radio scripts, and then that was pretty much what he worked in live TV and.
And they are like old Hollywood because you've invited me up to their house, and they have this palatial home at the top of Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
But it's funny because juxtaposed in the very sunny, sunlit Southern California vibe up at the top of Mulholland, it's a very gothic environment.
Yes.
And he's very,
Right?
He's like a,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that he was wearing one, but he's like a dinner jacket kind of guy. Like a dinner jacket and an ascot. I kind of feel like that.
Yes.
But he's very kind of formal and very sort of Mr. Mysterioso.
Yes, Mr. Mysterioso.
Isn't he?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he'll wear like light blue loafers and yellow loafers.
He's a character.
He's a character, and he's sensational.
I don't know where you get it. So anyway, so you grew up in a colorful household.
Very
I mean,
colorful.
you said people,
people were
and
just-
you're like one of your closest friends from the professional children's group was Cy
Feuer's son Jed.
Right.
Yeah,
And
who's
so-
a wonderful composer and out there composing as we speak. And and so we hung
as
out.
kids, you'd hang
as
out,
kids.
and Sondheim would be there.
Sondheim would be there, and Gwen Verdon, and Fosse, and Abe Burrows, and all of those people were. And we would hang out. Cy would give us the limo for the night, and we'd all get in the limo at 16 and dress up and go out and see How to Succeed for the 17th time because we could.
Because you could, by God.
And I remember we went to, for instance, he owned the Lunt-Fontanne, Cy did, and so we went to opening night of Richard Burton's Hamlet, which was such a big deal because nobody was doing all black costumes with turtlenecks. That's how they did Hamlet in 60, whatever it was, 62, 3. It was like, what do you mean you're not wearing costumes in a castle? It was all like flats and boxes and turtlenecks. And Elizabeth Taylor sat right in front of us. Joyce.
You were in the house seats? My
we
friend
were in
Joyce.
the house seats, your darling friend Joyce. And Taylor was right in front of us, and with huge black cascade, what we used to call in those days, cascade of curls that you would take and stick on. I think I still have mine.
Right.
Yeah. That's what she was wearing.
Oh, my God.
So it was fantastic. And we would just, it was a very, very eclectic, exciting way to grow up.
And Lesley Ann Warren.
And Lesley Ann
part of that
Warren
group.
was one of that group. And I remember going, when she would go to auditions, and I was there the day that she got her first show. Sitting in the phone booth. We had phone booths. Those are tall things that have glass on three sides of them.
My viewers won't know what that is. Even.
And she got 110 in the shade. I remember that day. And she looked in the bulletin board and said, there's an audition there for a full scholarship to Adelphi University, which is in Garden City, New York. And since I got the show, I won't be going up for it, but you should. And I went home and said to Mom and Dad, I'm going to win that. And I did. I won the citywide scholarship for acting to Adelphi. I don't even think I would have gone to college had I not. I had, all I wanted to do was sing and dance on Broadway, really.
I should have snagged that picture because you put something up recently on Facebook.
I did. We did a USO show.
What was that?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was Leave It to Jane.
Right.
I have very often been cast in tart-type parts.
No. Not
And then
you,
I do Annulah, which is very, singing Yiddish
Right.
Mama, or Piaf, being very lovely and walls.
Well, let me take just a couple minutes here.
Yes.
I do my little
Yes,
promo
please
segment
do.
of things going on around town. I like to let people know about. I call this 1001 Cabarabian Nights. And first up, this week, I'm really excited to be back at Catalina Jazz Club, one of my very favorite places to play. I just got back from New York with Lauren White and the Quinn Johnson Trio, and we played Laurie Beachman last week. And this week on Wednesday, May 21st, we will be at Catalina. And we also, in the California show, we have guests, our beloved Dolores Scorsese and the vocal trio Chambers, Herbert, and Ellis. And it is a really jam-packed evening of great, great, great jazz. And then next week, 1 week from Wednesday, May 28th, I'll be back at the Catalina Jazz Club with Lorena Morrow in How Glad I Am, a tribute to Nancy Wilson. This is a brand new show that I've just been developing with Lorena, and it is fabulous. Nancy, I consider myself a bit of a savant about female singers, but I didn't know that much about Nancy Wilson, and she actually has turned me on to quite a few songs I had not heard, and it's fantastic. Really? Steve Rollins is the musical director and has done some gorgeous arrangements, and it's really a tribute to those great women in like 60s, like Diane Carroll, Barbara McNair, Marilyn McCoo. They were extremely elegant.
What about Nina Simone? Or was that even earlier?
That was earlier, Nina Simone was a little bit more, took the music a little artier. These women were very kind of pop, almost, like TV variety show pop.
That's right.
And it's just a really fun show. I really am looking forward to it. May 28th at Catalina Jazz Club. And then the next night we have Beverly Mickens Party Pack, where Ivy has been with us before. This week our guests are Ty Vance, Janet S. Blake, and the group Polaris Rose, which is known to many of you as Peter Ewan and Maddie Elise. And then we're going to have, on June 1st, we're doing another one of my Here and Now series. This one will feature Patty Reed, Tootie Roach, Andrew Apple, and Christopher Sundquist on June 1st, Sunday, June 1st at M-Bar. And then on June 15th at Vitello's, Jazz Upstairs at Vitello's, I'm doing one of my Jazz del Corazon events, a fundraiser for this young woman here, Sophia Scorsese. Sophia is the daughter of Dolores Scorsese, a fabulous jazz singer. And Sophia is a young woman, I think she's maybe 25 or so, and her whole life, totally good health. One day she woke up with a bleed in her brainstem and lost all of her motor functions. And she's better now. That happened about a year and a half ago. She's almost rehabilitated in terms of being able to walk and speak and stuff like that, but still very compromised and still not out of the woods, but functional for the most part. And so all of Dolores's fabulous friends, Mark Winkler, Lauren White, Chambers, Herbert, and Ellis, Jackie Gibson, Keith Borden, and I have one big guest star I can't say yet. I'll say on my next program. I can't say it yet. But that's June 15th. It's a brunch at Upstairs at Vitello's, and that's going to be an amazing day, an important day, doing something really great for somebody very deserving, and it's going to be a killer jazz concert. So come on down for that. All right. Now back to my Ivola.
Fabulous. All of this sounds so great.
So Ivy, there's just so much ground to cover with you, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about your your background, because there might be people that will find this broadcast that know more about you than we're saying. So I know that Ivy Jones is a stage name that you took sort of at a midpoint in your career, right?
Early 20s, actually.
Early 20s, okay.
Yeah,
but previously you had worked as
Eileen DeFilitta.
Right.
But really, once I started working here, I got very hot with Procter & Gamble commercials. And they really did not want any kind of ethnic name. And,
wow.
You know, in the early 70s, that it was not the fashion to let go and let's all be ourselves.
Right.
You know, so it was suggested to me by Abrams Rubloff, which was a really major agency at that time. They're gone now, but and by my father, by Frank. Frank is very funny, and he said, I have so many enemies in this town. I don't want you to be hurt by my enemies. And so I kind of was like, okay, I'm only 22. I'll do whatever you're all suggesting. I just want to work.
Right.
Yeah.
And I did want, you know, I just find it's like a time capsule of how the business has
evolved.
It
is.
And,
that's right. Yeah.
And I know you did Gunsmoke and the Waltons.
Yes. I gave birth on Gunsmoke on a buckboard. Those were things with horses that were.
And Little House on the Prairie.
I love that you're
such a hardcore New Yorker
so
type
funny.
Personality, and you end up like on the prairie.
You know, you dye your hair red and you get a nose job, and
that's funny.
And you change your name to Jones. And the only reason that name came up was Maggie Smith was my great heroine at that time, and she had just done Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, and I said, well, if I can't have. You know, it's Maggie Smith. If I can't be Maggie Smith, I'll have to take Jones. And then I sat with a list, and I was Cleopatra Jones for half an hour.
Somebody took that too.
All kinds of other names, and then Ivy for some reason was the only thing that just suddenly sat well with me. So you know, I've done a lot of things impulsively. And I've changed my name back to Eileen DeFilitta a bunch of times.
Really?
Yeah, which you have to do physically at SAG. You have to go down there and write it out.
Oh.
And I did. I went when I did Annulah off Broadway in New York. I changed it back to Eileen DeFilitta. Yeah, I thought it would.
I'm sure that must be maddening for your agents.
It's maddening, and it's maddening for me, and and the family. I mean, it gets kind of strange.
But now let's talk about what we're working on now. We've been, our vision is evolving. It's ever evolving. You know, I once again, I think it was me that had the great idea.
Yes,
I'm so smart.
You are.
I had a funny idea that something Ivy could do really, really well would be a one-woman show about Ruth Gordon. So we have spent some time over the last couple of years developing this idea of Ruth, and it hasn't fully formed yet. Right. So we're not quite ready to present that yet. But we've been experimenting with doing some new shows.
Yes.
And we put together maybe 6 or 7 song set a few months back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some really, really great material.
Yes.
Some really great material. I was hoping to show one of the pieces I'm particularly proud of, but it was too long for this format. It would have gone on. But we did I actually kind of want to explain it because it's so reflective of you. So it has Ivy, kind of like as a music hall performer coming out and singing the song "I Got a Man." When you have a great ear for finding all these great
I love to
Blossom Dearie type, really classic old 20s, 30s songs. So she starts in an upbeat way, singing "I Got a Man," and then sort of has a little flash of a meltdown kind of a thing. And I need something to drink. And look at me acting out your act.
Good. I love it.
I want to share it because it was so good. And then I need something to drink. Could somebody get me something to drink? Turns into very conversationally, without you really knowing what's happening. It turned into something cool. And then I'd like to order something cool,
which was actually your idea.
I'm smart. And then she does something cool. And then that musically intertwines with Lush Life.
Yes.
And it's so beautiful. I mean, I wish I had shown the clip, but this wasn't the time.
Yeah, okay.
But we'll do that whole piece again.
Yeah.
And, it was interesting to me, every time you performed it, I think my viewers from spending this hour with Ivy can realize Ivy's an actress who's very on the precipice, so it's very live when she does what she does. And when you had your faux breakdown to go into something cool, I mean, I remember one woman standing up and going, okay, somebody call the... And I'm like, shh, it's part of the show. You remember? That was Florence Riggs, wasn't it? No.
Yeah,
it was.
At
It
the
was
house, yes. It was Florence. It was Florence Riggs.
She was called the medics.
Yep. Yeah. Very, very exciting to put together. That you are so open to putting the acting with the singing, not just acting as you sing, but intertwining it with dialogue or a happening, a whole.
Well, for me as a presenter, as a person who produces a lot of shows, everybody has a different thing you want to feature. And sometimes you want to feature somebody's this or somebody's that. But with you bring such a full emotional life. You're such an amazing actor, and you're so available, to that transparent interior process. That's what's fun. I mean, it's a different tone altogether than what you're used to getting in the cabaret, but fascinating, and I really look forward to doing more of it. We're toying right now with the idea of doing an actual show that's more of a conversation, like a salon, where we come to see Ivy and she talks to us and tells us stories, and then the songs are woven in within that.
Yeah. Because I have lots of stories.
You got lots of stories.
Lots of interesting people and lots of people in my life. And
what was the book that we were looking at the other day? A very famous songwriter.
Harry Warren?
Harry Warren.
Oh, I grew up with Harry. He was Uncle Harry. And Harry Warren was a very close friend of my parents, and he would come for, Frank was a big cook, still is, but he doesn't walk so great anymore, so he cooks a little less. But he used to be written up in the LA Times and magazines, People Magazine, for his cooking. And so he did a major, big Sunday meal, and Harry Warren was there most of the time and would sit down at the piano, or we'd go to Harry's house in Beverly Hills, and Harry would sit down at the piano and play, and we'd sing You'll Never, we'd sing his songs.
I remember we were at your house, and you have a quite extensive library room, and I picked up the book, like look, I only have eyes for you, or whatever, and I opened it up, and the inscription was
was to Eileen something. What did he say? I have to look at it again. Something
it was
lovely,
very personal.
Very
I mean,
personal.
it was obvious that you were a dear child in his life.
Yes, and I have personal autographs like that from Bobby Short, who we were introduced to when he really was first starting, and Arthur Knight, the critic, who was such a big deal critic many, many years ago, had first brought us to Bobby Short, to the attention of Bobby Short, and then he became part of my circle in New York, part of that Manhattan Plaza group. So there's lots of people and lots of stories, and then there is the whole notion of Ruth Gordon hanging in there as an actress and not giving up and not facing the facts of recently somebody said to me, well, you got to be realistic. I mean, you're not going to win an Oscar.
Right.
And,
who's to say?
And Ruth would say, I hate facts. Don't tell me that. And she won her Oscar at 73.
Right.
I'm just looking to keep acting and singing. I just love performing so much, and I love creating human beings and feelings, and I know you do, and where we do it is just, what do they say in Candide? Where you're where our garden grows,
Yeah,
or
make
we'll
your garden grow.
yeah.
So we're coming to the end of our time, which just breaks my heart.
Gentlemen.
Aren't they great?
Yeah, they're fabulous. I want to keep going.
I know. So
this is great.
It goes so quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's
It
just
really
crazy.
does. It's wonderful that you're doing this.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.
You've actually watched a few of them.
I
love
watched.
that.
Yes, I love them. I've watched a whole bunch of them.
Yeah?
A whole bunch of them. Yeah. Yeah, I think they're terrific.
So I'm wondering, is there anything in particular we need to say or promote by way of goodbye for today?
No.
Keep your eyes open.
Keep
for
your
when
eyes
we're gonna do
open,
something.
and we're going to
And go see Rob the Mob.
go see Rob the Mob.
And-
I wish I could tell you where it is in L.A. right now, but I'm not sure if it's still in L.A. I know it's in a lot of cities around the
It also
country.
aside from the Young Lovers, it also stars Ray Romano.
Ray Romano, who's wonderful.
And Andy Garcia. Who
And
is
Andy Garcia,
awesome
who's just
in it.
awesome. Yeah. So,
Well,
thank
Ivy,
you.
thank you so much.
Thank
It's so
you.
fun spending
What
time
a
with
joy.
you.
I love this.
Let me thank the folks
Please.
here at the
Yes.
Global Voice
Yay.
Broadcasting. We'll thank my
Yay.
intern, Peter. Thank you, Peter. And my landlord here, Mr. Todd Murray.
Yes.
And the operations manager of the Global Voice Broadcasting, and my in-studio engineer, Gabe Harder.
Yay.
And we'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.
And so it seems that we have met before and laughed before and loved before, but who knows?